what the job of the brand really is to really quickly grab somebody's attention and communicate value. And the goal is to do it with a very few number of words. And to me, I look at it as a lot like writing a song. If you know me very well, almost everything I do seems like writing a song. But branding is a lot like writing a song because songs are really short. You have 3 minutes to get an idea across. So everything in that song has to focus on one idea. And the key to a great song, if you find a great core idea, the song practically writes itself. If there's no core, you can write and write and write, and you never quite get there. That core makes it all happen. And for instance, I love her so much, she's so sweet to me. I love her so much, she's just like my sweet tea. She has been so good to me since my grandma died. Now, is that a love song anymore? No, in Nashville we call that a landmine. I just exploded the song. Because now, no matter what I say, it has to be about my grandma. It's no longer about this sweet little helper, or my darling, or whatever it was about is destroyed. So brand is very important, the words we use and the words we choose not to use. So, and in the process, there's a lot of tools that we can use to build a proper brand. I want to talk about one that's really important, and it's called a metaphor. Does anybody remember from 3rd grade the difference between a metaphor and a simile? It's all right, we'll do 3rd grade later. But a metaphor, a simile is a comparison. It's when we're taking two things and saying, hey, these are similar, guys. This is like that. Pretty simple. They can be vivid, imaginary, but it's just a comparison. A metaphor is much more powerful. A metaphor is when we describe something with words that don't really fit together, words that logically are irrational. And it forces your imagination to jump. The only way you can make sense of a metaphor is with your imagination. So I'm going to give you a little sample here. See if you guys can find the metaphor in this song. Pretty diamond in the rough. She's a diamond full of special stuff. Really tough, a pretty diamond in the rough. I just hope it's enough. All right, now can anybody raise their hand and tell me where the metaphor was in there? Yes?
Diamond and tough?
Yeah. Now, am I really singing about a diamond? Or am I using the diamond to describe something else? What am I describing?
Her strength, her tenacity, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So what kind of picture do you see when I say she's a diamond? What am I telling you about the girl? Just whatever comes to your mind. What do you see?
Sparkling.
Sparkly.
Prized.
Prized. Nice.
Expensive.
Super expensive. That one's so obvious.
How about committed?
Yeah. One time I had a little 8-year-old go, oh, maybe she's multifaceted. You never know. So, but that one word, those 3 little words, she's a diamond, and all these different things we get to see in those few little words. Now I'm going to show you what happens when we take the metaphor out and replace it with an adjective. She's so pretty, really great. She's so pretty, and really great, really great. She's so pretty, and really great. Song kind of gets boring, right? I mean, that metaphor sparkles, but you take the metaphor out and the song just goes flat right away. Adjectives are boring. It's just the fact of the matter. And we also have to be careful of cliches. We all know the word cliche. It's raining cats and dogs. It used to be a metaphor, but as a writer, it is not a metaphor. It's become a cliche. It's been so overused, it's no more powerful than an adjective. So the key to a great brand is putting words together in a way that you haven't quite heard before. It kind of grabs your imagination, because what this song does, what any song does, when you put a metaphor in that song, it's like a magic trick. It forces the audience to use their imagination. And the moment you begin to use your imagination, you begin to write the story. And this song becomes your song instead of being my song. Now, think about brands that you manage. The brand of your club, if you own a business, the brand of your business or your not-for-profit. What is that brand saying to people? What kind of words are you using to describe your club? I know Gary's already covered a couple of these. This is from Brent Rosenthal's presentation. Brent's our membership chair for the zone and he's in Columbus, Ohio. These are results. I know Gary showed this morning. This is a January 2010 study from Rotary International. They interviewed 73,000 Rotarians in North America and to find out what was important to these Rotarians, current Rotarians. People who've been in Rotary for 5 years or less, number one reason to join Rotary was networking. Number two reason, professional development. And all the way down to number three is service with peers. So when we brand Rotary on service, we are appealing most to people who've already been in Rotary for 6 years. This is great for us in this room. It connects deeply with how we experience Rotary. But on membership, when we are talking about bringing in new members and retaining new members, we need to retain those people who've been Rotarians for 1 or 2 years. What do they care about? Different concerns, different area of focus. So I have 3 main rules as we start to brainstorm once we find a brand. Number 1 is, can you pop bottle that brand? Whatever you're going to say about your brand, can you fit it on the pop bottle? My slogan, sell it like a rock star, it'll fit on the pop bottle. Rotary fits on the pop bottle. Rotary has competitors who also have their own pop bottles. And when we take Rotary and we brand it as service, there are other avenues people can spend their time on in our communities. And the Optimists, they're branding on service. And the Lions also do service. United Way, Salvation Army, they all do service. So you walk down that grocery store, you're trying to decide where to spend your time, and all the bottles look the same. Now, if you have ever been to all those different organizations, each one's a completely different experience, right? I've worked with many of those organizations, and each one, very different experience. But I can't tell until I go spend days and weeks with each of those organizations which one I want. So how can we as Rotary, how can we stand out so the people who we know will like Rotary most are naturally attracted to try our brand first? In my brainstorming, in your own club, and this is, I took my own club through this process, and we've developed a brand that we're beginning to use. And I'm going to share with you our process that we went through. I'm going to share with you the process. You can take your own club through it if you'd like to. First thing is you really have to brainstorm all your strengths. What are all the things that make your club stand out? But don't just brainstorm what your strengths are. Also ask, why do you have these strengths? How do you use these strengths? And we're looking for just words, like a list of words. And then the next thing, and this is counterintuitive, but we really want to focus a lot on our weaknesses. What are our biggest weaknesses? Why do people not want to be in Rotary? What's the one thing people say, ooh, not Rotary? Because when I work with clients, it's amazing how this question usually leads to their biggest, most successful brand. What is your biggest weakness? Why do you have that weakness? How can that weakness be helpful? Because a lot of times your biggest strengths lie directly underneath your biggest weakness. I was working with a client out in Austin, Texas. We were on the phone just a couple weeks ago. He's developing a digital poster. And it's kind of like those big billboards that change, except it's a poster, a 3x4. It can fit like a McDonald's window. The cool thing is it also has a camera in it that watches people walk by, and it gauges based on how fast you move, your height, your posture. It'll guess if you're male or female, how old it thinks you are, and it will target ads for you. Pretty cool stuff. It also has the ability to look in your cell phone if you set access, allow it access. So it can say, oh, you've been searching for maternity clothes. Boop, there's an ad for maternity clothes. So, cool technology. So we go through all the strengths, and all the strengths are kind of obvious. And we begin to look at the weaknesses. What are the big weaknesses? And he says, well, people really complain because it's so distracting, especially at night. And we really had to tone it down, because to make it bright enough to see during the day, at night, you can barely, the thing's just like daylight. And we really had to tone it down, and people complain about how distracting it is. And I'm like, oh my gosh. This thing grabs attention so well, people call it, some people, the only complaint we ever get is distracting, because it grabs people's attention so well. If you owned a storefront window, does that sound nice? Mm-hmm. So attention, yes, we just take that negative, spin it right into a positive. So what kind of negatives do I hear about Rotary? I've heard this said over and over again. I don't know if it's Debbie maybe that jokes about this. Running a Rotary meeting is like herding cats. Anybody ever had that experience? Trying to manage Rotarians is like herding cats. And it's true. Managing Rotarians is not, you guys are not easy to manage. Why? Because we, at least I visited many, many clubs, and the Rotarians I meet over and over and over again are used to being in charge. They're typically the executive directors, the owners, the preachers, the politicians, the people who call the shots, the people who run their employees, the people who have assistants to help get things done. And suddenly they're sitting on a committee being told what to do, and wow, that was a crazy growing experience for me. Why is that? Because Rotarians are the leaders. We tend to be the community leaders, the leader of the organization that we come from. So this big weakness, just flip it over. Wow, now that sounds attractive, to join a group of leaders. So we were brainstorming my membership committee back in Portland, and we were going through all the words, all the things that we had that were positive about our club. We were looking at other clubs and our experience with other Rotarians, and leadership just really jumped out. We circled that one big. And something jumped in my mind. I had seen an advertisement from Rotary International. I can't remember where I saw it, one of the conferences, and it said, Rotary, it was the original social network, kind of playing off of Facebook being a social network. I was like, network? Because what did that survey say? Networking. But in my experience, Rotary is not the best place to just come in and to do networking. If you're coming in looking to gather business cards and get leads right then and there are faster ways to do that. Rotary is not the best place to go in and gather business cards and make sales the next day. Networking is a hard sell. It doesn't really describe the experience that I've had. But Rotary is a network, a community network. We're a network of leaders across Indiana. We're connected to a network of leaders around the world. So we looked at that, and we came up with the term leadership network. We brainstormed a lot of different terms. We tried leadership development, servant leadership, but the problem is that those had already been used, overused, to where it didn't really grab your imagination as much. But we really do, at core, do servant leadership because we do so much service. And I think that is the core of drawing people into Rotary. You've heard that phrase where people join Rotary several years before they actually become a Rotarian. Mm-hmm. And that growth and development, because that's who we are, and we'll never leave that. But how do we get those new members in? How do we attract them? How do we retain them for their first few years? Leadership network. Now, we run it through the test. Can you pop bottle it? Yes. I didn't have time to cover this in depth, but stand in the spotlight. Does it stand in the area of concern? People who are looking to join Rotary, what are their concerns? Does Leadership Network jump in their area of concern, where they have their spotlight focused? Because if you're outside that focus, they'll never see you. I think Leadership Network is standing in an area that people care about. And the last thing, does it have deep meaning? Going back to that metaphor. What's the deep meaning of Leadership Network? Deep meaning is the implied meaning. For instance, if I want to make sure Eric knows that I think Eric Richards is a good friend, I can say, hey, Eric, you're a great friend, man. Now, what's the implication of that? Eric knows that I want him to think I think he's a great friend. And so that surface meaning, if I put it what I really want to tell Eric, I really want to let Eric know he's a great friend. If I just say, you're a good friend, then he has to decide, well, does Thaddeus really mean this? Yeah, okay, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, you know. But yeah, maybe we'll have coffee, we'll hang out. But I call Eric up. Hey man, you won't believe it, I just sold a song. Let's celebrate. Now look at the deep meaning of that statement. I just sold a song. Deep meaning? For a lot of money. Let's celebrate. And there's big, deep structure there. Let's celebrate. Oh, and the implied meaning there, Eric, is I consider you such a close friend that I want to share this special part of my life with you. By the way, I'm buying. Now, if I really want to let Eric know he's a great friend, which is the more powerful statement? Just telling him or implying it? The implication is more powerful, right? And that's the trick of a great brand, is the implications. What are the implications of Leadership Network? Rotary is not just an organization, it's a network of leaders. And by joining our Rotary Club, you can tap into a local and global network with the power and motivation to get things done. All that is implied in those two little words. So then we began to throw questions at it. And one thing I've discovered when you find a great brand is it starts to write itself. The story begins to write itself. Questions that come at you, they practically answer themselves. People ask, well, who are you? What is Rotary? Why should I join? Oh, well, we're a leadership network. Well, how are you any different from Optimists or Lions Club? Well, we're not just an organization, we're a network of leaders. We do different types of service because of our leadership orientation. How do you manage to be so effective? Oh, well, our global network is made up of community leaders. What do? Well, we're pushing to expand human quality of life in our community and around the world. So differentiation, the answer is just
I could be
Sorry.
the answer if you really want me.
The answer is Jan. This is, for our Portland Club, a term that we've landed on, that we're beginning to use to brand our club, to describe it to other people. If it works for you, feel free to share it. And also feel free to, if you want to go through this process and find your own distinct brand, if you think that doesn't really describe your club, feel free to call me. We're here as a resource. We'll do what we can to help.